You are ugly, you are angry, resentful, hateful, jealous when you hold back. Create the conditions where you can create time by hiring help. All right. Welcome to another episode of Mindset Mastery. I'm your host, AZ Araujo, brought to you by Do the Work. And again, that is the core of what we do, the core of what we're responsible to do each and every day. And I had a pretty good weekend with my family. One of my daughters went out to a mission trip, which she does. It's usually a 3 to 4 day trip. And she goes to an orphanage out in Mexico. So her and this group from her church and from her school, they go out there about 4 to 5 times a year. And so I got to spend a lot of time with my youngest. She didn't have any games going on, and she got to hang out with mom and dad most of the weekend. And so we went out. There's a big, the homecoming dance coming up here, right? So if you have high school kids, there's the homecoming dance coming up. So we went to the mall to go look for a dress. So we spent a lot of time doing that. And of course, I'm not going to be inside the stores, right? Being the only man in some of these stores feels a little awkward sometimes, right? So I always wait outside. And I ended up going to this other store, a man's store, right? And there was this guy that came up to me and he says, "Oh, do the work." And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, what do you do?" I said, "Oh, I just do that." He asked, "Oh, are you a personal trainer or do you compete?" I said, "No." I mean, that was a good compliment, right? I don't get that very often, especially when I'm around Carla. Everybody asks her, but not necessarily me. But he says, "Oh, do you compete? Do you do personal training?" "No, I just do it." And he says, Why do you do it?" I said, "Well, it's just part of my routine." Then he said something that was very interesting that got me thinking about today's topic. He says, you don't have to say it, I can see it, right? I don't have to read it, I can see it. And it got me thinking that that your results will always be seen, like physically, they'll be felt. It's something that you don't have to necessarily state, right? So he saw it on my shirt. He says, "Man, even if you didn't have the shirt, I could tell you did the work." And it got me thinking about this whole notion of balance, right? Versus intention. Because, balance, I think sometimes, or the whole phrase of balance, and I try to look up a quick definition of this. And it says, life balance is typically defined as the amount of time you spend doing your job versus the amount of time you spend with your loved ones. And I don't think that's how you create a life on fire. If we're trying to create balance, it hasn't worked in my life. Now, hear me out, okay? And some of this, what I go down into actually describing and reading you what I wrote in my journal this morning, may be a little, I don't know if it's offensive, but you may not necessarily agree with me 100%. But I think balance would have limited me. I think compromising in my relationship would have limited both of us. And I think that is the biggest reason why we have high divorce rates, is we're looking for this compromise or this balance. I think that's why so many businesses fail, because everyone's looking for balance and compromise. And if you think about who's been embedding this in our minds, it's usually people that never had any balance, right? That oftentimes compromised. And I got to tell you, every time that we ran down this path of balance and compromise, we were heading towards divorce because we each were holding back. We were each trying to make each other happy. If you're trying to create a big business, it's because you have intention and focus. If you're trying to create a great marriage, it's because you go with intention. It's not just based on time or compromise. It's based on your full intention towards something. And we have to look at where we're at and how we're misinterpreting a lot of this. I remember a while back, I was talking to one of our agents, and he was stressed out of his mind. All right, because he had to go pick up, his kids from his mother-in-law's house because she had to leave to an appointment, right? And he had to go rush back, even though he had business to conduct. So he was stressed out. So he had to rush over and then take care of the kids until his wife got home so he can, give her the responsibility and then go back out. And I'm like, that's not balance, right? I know we're trying to commit time with our kids, but this whole notion of balance is about having backup plans of making sure that everything comes after the things that you want to do. Okay, this is where it can sound a little selfish. This is where it can sound a little off for many of you, where you're like, no. Kids are important. Wife is important. I'm not saying they're not. But I'm saying if you hold yourself back or you depend on other people to fill in for you when you're not available, as opposed to having a game plan, then you're always going to hold back. And when you hold back, you start growing resentful and jealous towards those that are pushing the envelope. When you hold back, you become resentful. You become frustrated, because you're unwilling to come up with a game plan on how you can create solutions versus balance. And just because it's your turn to take care of the kids, or it's your turn to do this, that, or the other, doesn't mean it has to be you actually doing that. Because if you're doing it when you have a whole slew of things that you have to do for yourself and for your family, you're not going to come in with the right attitude. So yes, maybe you're there, but you're just there physically, not emotionally. Because you're thinking about this other thing. You're distracted. And you're feeling resentful. So now you're more stressed, more frustrated, and yelling at your kids. So is that really good time with them? As opposed to coming up with solutions that will work for you to get what you need to do for yourself, what you need to do for your responsibilities. And when you have that time, it's 100% intentional. Now, hear me out. Okay, hear me out. I'm going to go ahead and read you some of the things that I wrote. And it's okay. Listen, this is only an opinion, but I'm telling you something right now, that if I would have gone for balance and balance alone, I would never have created the lifestyle that I have. I would never have the relationships that I have with my daughters today. I would never have my marriage the way I have it today. And it wasn't based on compromise or having balance. It was because I was taking care of myself and what my purpose is first and foremost. And then finding up solutions on how we can, take care of our responsibilities, including our kids. It was when we had to barter time or to make it more convenient for my mom, because she used to take care of my kids, right? Early on. As a matter of fact, it was more my eldest. We were constantly being tripped up anytime she couldn't take care of the kids. Anytime she had to go to an appointment and leave early. Like, why was I holding back of just taking them to a daycare? Oh, because growing up, I heard that daycares were bad. and it's not a good place. Or I was just being cheap. I couldn't create the lifestyle that can pay for that. And that's probably one of the reasons too. Because of this notion of balance and me having to be there and Carla having to be there, we couldn't create the funds to actually pay somebody to take care of my kids. So now it was up to my mom to find the time in her day to take care of my kids. All for the sake of balance. When really, is there any balance right now in your life? Can you really say that? Because if it's just time, look in the mirror. Does your body show that there's balance? Does your business show that there's balance? Or does it show commitment? Does it show dedication? Because I can tell those that are trying to shoot for balance versus dedication and commitment. They're two different things, but it doesn't mean you can't create harmony in your life. My kids can't get the best of me if I know I'm leaving a lot on the table as far as for the business. They can't get the best of me. My wife can't get the best of me if I'm not taking care of myself physically, mentally, emotionally. She can't. But if we're just trying to do, back and forth, because it's my turn, then we would have limited ourselves. We would have compromised too much, and we would have probably been heading towards divorce like we once were. What I'm saying is don't hold back. What I'm saying is you can do all things. What I'm saying is balance has nothing to do with time. Balance has nothing to do with time. But yet we're led to believe that. I feel we fall into the trap that balance means just being there. That it all has to do with time. That time of being with your spouse is balanced. The time that you spend with your kids is balanced. Couldn't that simply be a distraction? If my world revolves around time and not intention, does it really create balance at all? What happens if we simply chase the idea of balance? Let's say you do leave the office to spend time with your family, but you have a ton to do. Does that create balance or imbalance? If you hold back, is that balanced? If you're not creating the business you desire, is that balance? If you are overweight or out of shape, are you showing balance? If your marriage is on the rocks, does that mean more time will cure it? Everything is about intention. But knowing there will not be a balance. You holding back will create resentment. It will stifle your sense of purpose. How could you be passionate about something if it is always subject to your time from other people? This has to come from you. If you are not making money, if you are stressed, if you're tired, if you're out of shape, if you're constantly scheduling your day around the needs of others, is that truly balance? If you can't schedule your meetings accordingly because of who will take care of the kids and it's your turn to care for them, is that balance? That creates anxiety. That creates resentment. You can't get the ball rolling with that. You need to come up with a plan and disregard balance as you understand as we understand it, and throw it out the window. Balance is not providing you solutions. Balance is keeping you focused on the short term. If you depend on others like mom or family, is that any better? I don't want my kids to strangers, is something I used to say. But what happens when mom is not available? What happens then? You are leaving your ambitions on this idea that this is the way to raise kids. So I'm writing this out, and I remember, I used to be so anti-daycare, right? Because growing up, I was like, okay, you got to be taken care of by family. It's like, what kind of skill sets, though, are these kids building? To burden family, friends, etc. That's not balance. I took care of the kids. Now you need to what? I'm dropping them off at the daycare. It's not going to be balanced. So what I'm trying to say there is we have to stop this whole back and forth. It's my turn, it's your turn. It's like, let's create solutions. If you're busy and I'm busy, let's create solutions. Balance is no balance at all. It's what you do. Do you think you're going to be connected to your kids when all in your mind is supposed to be at the office? Do you think that being stressed and frustrated is doing a service to your kids? Do you think they don't know? Do you think your spouse doesn't know? As you get stressed out of control when you get home, you're resentful and you throw responsibility to them. Is that balance? How about you spend time and pay a nanny? How about you spend the time in your business and pay a nanny? So that you can come home more appreciative and intentional. Your pursuit for balance and the notion that it has to be family is really your inability to create money to pay for it. And again, I was talking to myself here. Trust me, you're not valiant in your efforts. Your kid, spouse, your own thoughts are not in a good place. You're frustrated, you're angry, and you're brewing with resentment. You need to take care of you. Look at your body, your thoughts, and your bank account. Where do you see balance now? You're being held hostage, and your ambitions of life are based on the time frames and the interpretation of others. What does that mean to you? You might be thinking, no, AZ, you're completely wrong. In my world, I think I'm absolutely right because I've experienced both sides. I remember the chaos it brings when I was holding back. I was bitter, angry. I was stressed out in this pursuit of balance. Our interpretation of balance is off. It's something we've heard from those that have never experienced it. Only those that have read about it but never created it. You can't school me. I can tell who has put in the work. Holding back will not make you any closer to your family. It's the intention behind it. It's what you do during that time. You're distracted and you're hating on others' progression. You're telling stories that you are doing the right thing when everything inside of you is telling you to go. You're using your family as a crutch. You may be full of it. Be honest with yourself. How could you possibly give the best of you if you held back? If your time is being controlled by someone else, if your spouse looks at you like a disempowered man, it's probably because you gave up on your purpose in the hopes to be balanced. That was for my men out there. When all she wanted from you was to be certain. But if you're going to act like a little, you know what, you're going to be treated like one. Balance is about sticking to your purpose. Balance is not time. It's about the intention and how you've delivered to yourself first and foremost. Are you balanced now? Like, ask yourself that question. Does your body show the balance or does it show dedication? I'm going to tell you something right now. My body shows dedication. Not balance. Dedication, intention, focus. That's what my body shows. Does your marriage show balance or does it show commitment? There's a difference there. If it was balanced, we both would be holding back. We both would be spiteful towards each other. We both would be compromising on bigger goals and ambitions. Does your business show balance or does it show your conviction? Let's look at your bank account. For many of you, you're trying to show balance, and what a shame. Stop using the word balance. Stop wavering around others. Compromise is not balance. Compromise is holding you back. Create the conditions where you don't have to hold back. Stop letting the guilt of time, the guilt of 50-50, the guilt of it's your turn to restrict you. You are ugly, you are angry, resentful, hateful, jealous when you hold back. Create the conditions where you can create time by hiring help. Take them to the daycare. And a side note, daycare will impact will impact their school readiness, their cognitive growth, and social emotional skills. Imagine that. The big scary daycare actually does a lot of positive for your kids as opposed to just speaking to grandma or sister all day long. Imagine that. See, this is your backup plan that you will make by choice, okay? So when you have a backup plan like that, I'm not saying don't take them to grandma's, don't allow to spend time, or if you choose, okay, if you choose to stay home, then that's your own choice, but not because you're forced to, because it's your turn. You will not get any certainty or confidence. You will lose yourself. And I'm talking to both men and women here. You will lose yourself. You will not give the best of yourself. You will be spiteful towards your spouse. You will be frustrated around your kids. So I'm going to read that again. This is your backup plan you make by choice, not because it's your turn. You'll treat them better. You'll enjoy them more. You'll be less frustrated, less resentful. Create the conditions to control your own life. Balance of time or someone else's balance will always leave you imbalanced. It's dedication and commitment, not balance or time. Instead of looking for balance, look for power and purpose. Create the conditions to win and not to compromise. Just because it's your turn doesn't mean you have to play within the same parameters. Go after your purpose. Go after taking care of yourself. Don't hold back. I've seen this too. Spouse stays home, man or woman, and it's like, now it's your turn. You're going to stay home tomorrow. It's like, what? It's like me, trying to be the broker for A's and Associates. I can't do that very well if I'm not focused on what I'm supposed to do. Right? You won't be. You won't be able to grow the business you want to do if you're distracted with many different things. You're trying to handle it all to try to save a buck, maybe. So if it's your turn, maybe you hire help. You get assistance. Doesn't mean you have to hold back and stay home all day long looking at others creating their life. Yeah, and that's the thing. The whole thing about this is like a broker allowed me to create more time so I can be more intentional and focused about growth. Just like every partner or trainer or administrative staff within the organization. I bought back my time. Your life will show where you spend your intentions, not your time. I'm going to say that again. Your life will show where you spent your intentions, not your time. Don't confuse the two. Your body, your family, relationships, marriage, business will all show your intentions. It will show your dedication, not your balance. It will show your convictions, not your balance. Balance is a crutch. It is your responsibility to do all things at a high level. Find the solutions to buy back your time. Don't use it as an excuse or as a weapon to hinder yourself or your family. Guys, this happens, and this is something that we have to deal with. Having kids, running a business, with so much responsibility. It's like you can use this as a weapon against each other. You can use this to be spiteful towards one another. Or you can find solutions on how each of you can go after your purpose. Okay? Because you holding back in your business is you're not giving the best of your to yourself for your family. You're not. You're not. You're not in business to barely make ends meet. And anytime you fall less than your best, then you're holding back based on somebody else's idea of what balance is. Create the parameters so you can be very intentional about what you do. That's what it comes down to. I love it. Sergio hitting me right in the chest. I love it, man. I'm glad you were here this morning. Good morning, Celia, Mary, Isaiah. What else do we got? We got more comments? All right, Isaiah, only to have a sense of resentment from and to family creating inconveniences. Yes. Oh, man, I know, right? I'm upset with my mom. Like, what the hell, Mom? Forget that doctor's appointment. It's like, wait a minute. They were doing me a favor, but doing you favors is not going to help anything out, right? It's like create contingent plans. Take them, hire people, hire like daycare. It's okay. It's only short term. And I promise you, when you get home, you're going to be more focused on holding your kids, happier, because you still did what you were supposed to do for yourself and your responsibilities. Anyway, this is just one example. But like that guy said, you don't when you see the results, you don't have to say anything. You can see your intentions, okay? So you either seek balance or you seek results. I know what I want. Guys, I hope that you were able to receive this in the way I intended. It's not meant to offend you. It's not meant to be critical. I'm just saying I had to go through this whole process myself. And I'm telling you right now, I would not have the lifestyle I have or the results I have if I yearned and I seeked a balanced lifestyle. There is no such thing. You either focus on the right things or you just waste time. Guys, I will talk to you soon. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye now. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Badass Agents Podcast, brought to you by AZ & Associates and Do the Work Coaching and Consulting. You can watch this and other episodes by subscribing to our channel on YouTube or by visiting us directly at badassagents.com. And of course, you can listen to this episode and many others on your preferred podcast provider.